Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Convention Tea. This is our PMX 2022 Tailgate. Wow, we haven't gone to PMX in like a while.
You used to do this all the time, by the way. You used to do these little videos of, I'm about to go to such and such con, here's what I'm excited about. And then we just stopped doing that at a certain point.
Just too much time, and sometimes you have cons that are just so back to back. But the reason why we're doing this tailgate here is because, well, apparently I'm a guest at PMX. I'm just as shocked as you are. I'm like, wow. When they reached out to me on Instagram, like, hey, do you want to be a guest? Like, sure. Like, I know you and I have been panelist guests before at Kraken Con, which was an amazing con, by the way. It's just rest in peace. It's was one of the best like fan run by fans for fans, multi fandom convention we've ever been to. We're not saying this just because we're guests. We were guests, but
Yeah, it was really well run. The staff was great. And, yeah. And even the attendees actually were pretty good people, too, because I always had people coming up and wanting to talk with me after panels and what have you, which is always a sign of a successful panel in my book.
so this episode of Convention Tea, we're just gonna look back at just some of our convention stories of PMX past. Let's talk about the Magic Candle Company, shall we?
So one of our fine sponsors is the Magic Candle Company. If you're a fan of theme parks on either coast of this country, then you know that there's some really awesome smells you'll get while just walking around. Whether it's popped corn, the greatest temptation of them all, or it is pirate water, which splashed in my face yesterday, or
You got to taste pirate water for Eat the Magic.
or if it's an extraterrestrial forest where one of the last good memories of you and your dad before he died. Regardless of which one it is, you can find your scents, and not just candles, like their name implies. They also have room sprays and other things, car fresheners, that allow you to have your favorite scents. You can just be whisked away from your mundane life and pretend you're in the Haunted Mansion holiday enjoying the smell of delicious gingerbread.
I do love me some gingerbread. All right, Scarlet Rhapsody, who are we? Well, this is an old photo of me at PMX. My first PMX was 2007, back at the LAX Hilton. So a little bit about us. Scarlet Rhapsody started. I actually started Scarlet Rhapsody in my dorm in university. I just wanted to just make a website where I just talk about my convention adventures. We had then added a podcast. We then expanded our team, and then we just kind of just decided to like, yeah, let's branch out more into pop culture conventions. We've moved around the country a couple of times. Like, yeah, let's check out the conventions here. Let's check out the conventions there. So we've really grown, and we have like this huge collective of convention stories, what convention reviews since 2003. And guess what? As I said at the beginning, I'm a guest this year at PMX. I'm one of the cosplay guests, and that's my photo as Shinobu, as taken by my buddy Matt Luna. So I was just quite surprised. I was very honored when they approached me. Like, hey, do you want to be a cosplay guest? Like, yeah, sure, sign me up. Again, it's been a while since you and I have been guests at events, and I think it's pretty much long overdue. Just getting this kind of guest treatment, and I look forward to just kind of just meeting the other guests that are also in line too, because technically, according to the flyer, CWF is also considered a guest of PMX.
Yep.
So collectively, we are guest.
Yes.
All right.
Yay.
All right. So let's talk about what the heck is PMX. And I use a photo from here. I think this is one of your convention horror stories presentation, and I see our friends Geki, Austin, the masseuse, and there's you at the far end.
Yeah, I used to bring in whatever other long-term convention people I could into the panel because that's the people you want telling the stories, not I went to a con once, it was 2001, and the traffic was bad. You're like, you don't want that guy. You want, like, okay, so then my friend decided to get in this shouting match with this other guy he met. Turns out that was one of the guests. And like that's the story you want, you know. And I had people that I knew who had gotten into some major shenanigans over the years. And so they ended up, you know, being better stories than the usual. The traffic was bad. But yeah, traffic is bad.
Traffic's always bad because this is Los Angeles. This
Yeah.
is Southern California. 405 is a trigger for anyone. So, what is PMX? PMX is short for Pacific Media Expo. Once upon a time, back in the early 2000s, a few folks who used to run AX was like, you know what, let's do something that celebrates more of a wider variety of Asian pop culture. Let's call it Pacific Media Expo. And let's host it on Memorial Day weekend 2004. And let's have Sakola Samu headline the whole thing. So, it was the same weekend as Fanime, and I've already committed to Fanime, and I did like I did like a PMX in concept. Again, first year was 2004 Anaheim Convention Center. They rented out like the arena so they can have an arena style rock concert with Sekula Semu, and I actually did see them live eventually in San Francisco. And what I liked about the concept is at the time, a lot of Asian pop culture was just coming to surface on the scene. So it wasn't just anime. This is like during a time when Avatar: The Last Airbender was also in its beginning stages. You were getting like a lot of Hong Kong cinema just coming to theaters. Hero was coming to theaters. That was amazing. You had like a lot of these just coming to the surface, and this was just like at the beginning of the height of like you see like teens reading manga at Borders. Who remembers Borders? Drop that in the chat. It was this Asian pop culture explosion, and it actually was a topic of my senior thesis in college, and I just really appreciated that the fact that there was a convention that was dedicated to Asian pop culture. And I was like, yeah, I'm all about that. But the problem was, the reason why I didn't attend PMX until 2007, it was a autumn convention. So it would usually be held like sometime in October after they moved it from Memorial Day weekend. And as a university student in San Francisco, yeah, that was midterm season. So I would have to like, okay, I'll just focus in on midterms, and then I'll go once I graduate from college, once I have like some time to attend PMX. So yeah, my first PMX was in 2007, and I had this crazy scheme to spend the weekend at PMX and on Sunday evening take a red-eye flight to New York because I am that insane. What was your first PMX, Jay?
I know, I'm fairly certain it was back when it was at the LAX, Hilton or whatever.
Yeah, LAX Hilton.
And I don't know if it was 2006 or 7. I don't know how far back it was. But I do remember that it was because I had friends, Austin specifically, and maybe one or two others, who had met me at like Anime Vegas and a few other cons. And were like, dude, do you go to PMX? I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And then they told me what it was, and so I looked it up, and I was like, oh, this is an inexpensive event. Sure, why not? And I'm doing that. I think the first time I went, I roomed with friends and then instantly regretted it. And then all subsequent times I roomed by myself. Because, or if I didn't room by myself, I think I went back and forth, and it was like a pain in the ass. And then the next time I think I roomed with friends, and then finally in like 2007 or 8, I roomed by myself. So it's been a while, and it's a really hard one to think about. I remember going to like the Asian film showcase room or whatever they called it, because they always had like some cool samurai flicks I'd never heard of, or some chopsaki stuff that I generally love. Yeah, I know it's not the appropriate word, but it's what they called it in the 70s, and it's a genre unto itself. And I always remember them having a really good game room. I'm not entirely certain who ran it, but they always had a good game room. And may have changed hands a few times, but they always had a good game room. And it was always a really intense party scene. But I remember even just having stupid moments of just like sitting in the lobby with people playing Uno for like an Uno game that just would not end until people started like bowing out. Because I don't know why, just the way the cards were dealt, it just kept. You're like, all right, I'm about to do it. Draw for it. Oh, come on! All right. And it just was just going and around and round and round. And that was the thing. It was usually a very chill event. I eventually really liked it when they had like the martial arts tournament going at the same time, things like that. So it always stood out as a very unique event because it didn't have your typical. I mean, it had the anime stuff there, and then some really strong guests. But they'd get guests like Asian American actors. They would get the martial arts people. They had the martial arts, Asian cinema room, things like that I thought really made it stand out as an event.
PMX also had a reputation like about 10 or so years ago, back in the 2010s, late zeros, where it was like the party con at the end of the year.
Yes.
So, like, even though, like, yeah, like it has like this amazing concept on paper, like celebrating all aspects of Asian pop culture, be it food, be it Hollywood celebrities, etc. Yeah, it was also best known as like the year-end party for Southern California. Like, I knew friends who would just like either commute or just like get a hotel room because it was just an all-night party.
Oh yeah, that's the reason. I think, like I said, I can't remember if the first year I stayed with friends or if I was commuting back and forth. Either way, I remember I hated it. But the party scene was pretty awesome. It's just when you're in the room with people who don't want to, the party don't stop because the party can't stop because it's an all night party. That's when it starts to get to you, and you're like, I just want to go to sleep. People, just stop, please.
All right, so the LAX Hilton year. So it sounds like you and I just started attending PMX during the LAX Hilton years.
I may have been either the first year they were at the Hilton or the second year they were at the Hilton.
Yeah, I don't recall what was the first year at the LAX Hilton, but I remember my first time specifically was 2007. I was living in the LA area at the time, and I remember 2007. Wow, what do I remember in 2007? I have a clearer memory of 2008 because of certain events in the world that happened in 2008. We'll get to that in a few. But yeah, all I remember from 2007, on the very last day, I cosplayed as Yomiko Reedman and then boarded a red-eye flight into New York, and I was still cosplaying as Yomiko Reedman on the flight. What do you remember from your first PMX?
7? Okay, well, for my first, almost nothing. Because I didn't really check out the concerts or anything like that. I probably did my typical trying to like find a decent anime figure to pick up. And I'm not even entirely certain which one I did. I think it was probably one of the Melty Blood figures because usually some store there usually had them and no one else knew what Melty Blood was. Occasionally the game room would be aware of what Melty Blood is, and I got to play it on like the PS2 version or whatever. But I remember spending a lot of time in the game room. Just hanging out with friends, but always because I had too many party people in my friends list. I'd be the person waking up at like 10, not even 10 o'clock. I'd be the person out and about at 10 o'clock when, like, I guess I'll go to a panel or something. I'll kill some time here. And I wouldn't be able to contact my friends until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Because, at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, let's go to Denny's. And I'd be like, guys, I'm going back to my room if you go to Denny's. I've done enough abuse to my body right now with however much we drank and whatever garbage level snack food you guys have brought from, the 99-cent store or whatever. And there's always that I want to go to Denny's guy. So that, and I remember 07, my biggest memory from 07 would have to be having the first time I think I had to babysit my brother. Because my parents were out and about doing something. I don't remember what it was. So I'm like, well, I'm going to this con. I've already preset it. And so I had to just take my brother with me. And that was only for one day. I wasn't cosplaying at the time, so he didn't cosplay either. I remember us just trying to teach him how to play Street Fighter, because he was like, I did math on that. It was 07. Yeah, it'd been 8 or 9, so it was around the time, like, but trying to explain to someone how, like, fighting game mechanics works is awkward. I didn't realize, like, because my brother and I kind of discovered it, the same way everyone else did, of just kind of messing around a little bit, but my little brother really hadn't. He was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I remember trying to teach him to play, like Street Fighter. It's Street Fighter 4. No, don't even know if that was out yet. It may have been Street Fighter 3 or Street Fighter Alpha. It was one of them on a classic system, and I was just trying to teach him how to play. That was a fun, an odd experience. I think that's the year where I just brought him to the karaoke room to be entertained for a bit, because I just did no idea what to do. And I believe it's also the year I technically ditched my little brother to go chase after a Final Fantasy cosplay gal. I want to say she was a Yuna cosplayer. It's been a long time. and ended up trying to flirt with her a bit, and it just failed. Like I just it wasn't a critical failure. It was just like I didn't just quite roll high enough, and I was like, yeah, screw it. And I just went back to my brother. And I'm like, okay, I'm done back from the bathroom. Are you good? And he's like, yeah, no one bothered me. And I'm like, okay. So to get an idea of the kind of guy I was in my 20s, that's the kind of guy I was in my 20s. You stay here, you don't move, and if anyone touches you, scream. Chase after girl.
All right. What's some other stories you have during the LX Hilton years? The early days of PMX. Oh, yes. The other reputation that PMX had in the Southern California community is it was Lolita Fashion Central.
Oh my god.
Like, you would have like the plebs, like the normies, like, well, the normies of the convention area. We would just kind of like just be doing our own thing, like, yeah, karaoke, browse around the dealer's room, let's just hang out in the lobby and chit chat. And 75% of the attendees were Lolitas in like the angelic pretty baby to starshine bright brands, because they actually got these designers to come over to PMX, and they had like tea parties. They had like these they had like I forgot, they had like the Goth Lolita Bible folks show up to do interviews, to just it was a huge deal for like the Lolita community, because this was like their Lolita convention. This was like their Lolita main event, because again, when you have the brand present, you're not paying like middleman fees. You're actually paying actual retail price on like socks, dresses, bonnets, head bows. So it was a huge deal for the Lolita community. They had like the author Kamikaze Girls, and you could actually have an up close and personal tea party with him. And you also had, I remember, because this also kind of transitions to a Lolita horror story. Oh yeah, by the way, that's me cosplaying as Princess K from The World Ends With You. I decided, like, okay, I don't, at the time I didn't really have any Lolita brand, but just to kind of like blend in with the themes of Lolita and the reputation at PMX is like Lolita Central. I'm gonna dress up like Princess K from World Ends With You. She runs a Lolita fashion store, and I'm gonna pose with like this Lolita off-brand booth here. So when you have like a ton of Lolitas coming in, there's bound to be elitism, snobbery, tomfoolery, etc. I do have one story about this, and I it is a common story that us press who were present at PMX, I forgot which brand was. It was either Angelic Pretty or Baby the Stars Shine Bright, and they had a tea party, and they were briefing the person who was running the tea party. She was running the whole shebang thing here. She was briefing press, and then she was just telling us, press are servants who should not be seen, in that exact tone, and I won't forget the words she said. Press are servants who should not be seen. So I'm like, hi, you're already treating us like the lower class here. I'm like, what is this, Victorian England? Are you like too much? Like, don't be a Dickens, you know? So I'm just sitting here. I was like, you know what? I don't need to cover your tea party if you're gonna like this is how you're gonna treat press. And plus they also want to like, yeah, before you publish any of your stories, we want to read it first. I'm like, hi, let me check my First Amendment rights here. I like to report things as is. Thankfully this individual is no longer associated with Angelic Pretty, but a lot of his press folks, we even dressed up for like, yeah, let's just wear something nice, you know? And like, let's just kind of like, yeah, we'll enjoy it. We'll enjoy. We're not going to be disruptive, but because like, yeah, we're press. We're just going to like just stand in the back, maybe take a few photos, maybe also interact and just also enjoy the tea service too, because that's also part of coverage. I also want to talk about the food and like how the brand, the designers, the models were also interacting with the Lolita's present. So that was just my story. And like, it was just funny because a lot of us press people, we just kind of like, decide to just walk out. It's like, yeah, we don't appreciate the censorship. We don't like being talked down to. So we're just gonna like just hang out in the lobby and just kind of like, all right, so you're the servants that you don't want to see. Well, maybe we're the ninjas, and maybe we have our knives already out because we were that pissed. Oh yeah, in the chat we have Mikotan. Hey, what up, dude? Are you going to PMX? All right, so now we got the Lolita stuff out of the way, and we do have one more Lolita story, but I saved it for the middle, but stay tuned for that one. I love this one. PMX also has a reputation for all-night karaoke.
Yeah.
All-night karaoke was just pretty much like the party central. I remember one time my introduction to the karaoke room. I go into the karaoke room. People are singing the theme from Big O. The Big O theme song does not have many lyrics.
No, it does not.
So you had people like just going up in a circle in the karaoke room with like an O over their head, like you just walked into some sort of cult dance. And like, wait, where's the party? I guess this is a party right here. And I remember a friend and I, we started singing some Morrissey, but the way I cut the track was like, we're gonna start singing like the first couple bars of Morrissey, and then we went into a Rickroll because this is also the time when Rickrolls were pretty popular.
Yeah, that sounds like something you'd do.
Yep. Yeah, it was, the karaoke room was a lot of fun. Let's see. Also in the chat, we got Miko-tan being like, "Yeah, I'm tailing over Toho Fest. Awesome. I'll see you there." And then Miko-tan be like, "Haven't been to PMX since 2019. Well, you know what, dude? My dude, I have not been to PMX since 2015.
And mine would be about 2012?
Yeah, yours would be 2012.
Yeah. That was not a good year for me.
Mm-hmm. And just give me a sample of what to expect from PMX karaoke. Okay, looks like it doesn't want to go.
It's going to do the whole will it play game.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, you can hear my stool squeak, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so like, well, video's deciding not to work with us or cooperate with us. It was working earlier. So we have a few gents up here. They're actually singing the thong song. And so you're just having like this random people just kind of like just come up on stage singing like pop hits, and you can choose from like their library of music, or if you had like a CD player or an iPod, they could also honor that request as well.
Yeah, music always went any direction. It wasn't one of those, oh, we only sing anime themes here. It was, what do you got? What do you want to sing it to? You want to sing AC/DC? You want to sing the new Zoo Review theme song? We got it. I was trying to think of something begins with the letter Z, and I couldn't. Zeppelin. Damn it.
Yeah, here we have our friend Mr. Furious from CWF singing Super Freak. The clip won't play for some reason, but any hoot. Speaking of CWF.
No, do I have to promote CWF?
Yeah, you got to promote CWF.
All right, I'll do the promotions. So, the Cosplay Wrestling Federation is an awesome event that you should attend. It is not actually cosplayers beating each other up in the ring. We do apologize for this. It is instead a fan participation comedy show where various characters from all sorts of media, anime, live action,
real life, and even just completely made up weird characters who happen to be freaky fish guys, will gather together, cut promos for the audience approval or disapproval, and eventually start throwing the smackdown on each other verbally with insults. It is a lot of fun. Everyone has a good time, and you get to yell so loud that other panels go, "Hey, could you guys keep it down, please? Could you just a little, keep it, just a little, keep it." And you go, "No!" Because we're going to yell out wrestling chants. We have a really awesome lineup. I don't think I'm allowed to spoil who the lineup is just yet, because I don't think it's been announced. I am part of it. You will see me as a brand new character who is totally going to get a reaction from the audience, I'm sure. You'll know who it is.
Yeah, once they
I assure
know
you, you will know who it is.
And we're also going to have little Titantron type entrances. I believe that is still going to happen here, even though it's a smaller event. It's a lot of fun. If it's your first time, you'll figure out the chants pretty quick. If it is your 100th time, then help those newbies understand why this is one of the best events at any convention it shows up at.
I'm really looking forward to this one. CWF is one of my favorite cosplay events of many cons. I've been to a ton of cons, East and West Coast. CWF is one of my favorites, so I highly recommend checking them out. All right. Alas, we do not have all night karaoke here because this is a video of people just dancing in the karaoke room.
Oh, well, I have a story on that one at least. We
Okay.
don't have a video. I can't remember what year. I know it was one of the years I had to babysit my brother, so that's one of 2 or 3 years I had to do that. And they decided at one point, someone decided to start singing the Katamari Damacy theme. And I ended up just getting up and I was like, well, I haven't tap danced in forever, so let's try that. I tried to do like a tap routine, which, by the way, I realized two things. One, in rubber soled shoes, that is nigh impossible to do. Two, it was still just really funny just kind of doing a stupid dance. And then some other people got up and started dancing. And it just, the dance party stuff happens. And it happens just organically. Like someone will hear a song they like and just run up in front of the stage and just start dancing and what have you. And there's so many times I've walked in and just see people dancing going, wait, is this a concert? Or and then the person gets done and someone else comes on stage like, no, it's karaoke. People are just dancing and having a good time. That was one of the coolest vibes. Like, I'm not really a karaoke room person, but when they had the large karaoke room, because they've had years where they've had a smaller room, but when they had the larger room, you would get people dancing. It would just be a party unto itself, and it would just keep going. Like, at a certain point, even, I just go like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm tapping out. But I knew people who I'd be at a part, like a regular party, and would come in. I'm like, dude, where have you been? It's like, karaoke room, man. See, first I wanted my song, but then the next guy came up and was singing da and then da and then I'm like, okay, cool, it's cool, bro. You're still really hyped up on that, and I'm like rum and coke number 6. So we're on different levels right here, bro. So you could just go tamp. I'm wrapping up the night. You're still super hyped up at 2 a.m. So I have had encounters like that where someone's still really hyped up from the karaoke room, and I'm like, dude, I'm wrapping up. Like, it's 2 a.m.
All right.
So I tried to make it my rule with parties to not get back to my hotel room any later than 3.
All right. Now we have the Yumi Fujiwara story. I love this story. So this is all like secondhand information, but this is a fun story to tell. So Yumi Fujiwara, she is the designer and the owner of Innocent World. Innocent World is a classic Lolita brand, so think a very fancy, bougie form of cottagecore for you aesthetic people out there. I personally love classic Lolita. I like that classic muted tones in contrast to like the sweet Lolita style, what you, Jay, referred to as cupcake Lolita.
Yeah, sparkly cupcake.
Yeah, for me, I like the muted tones. I like that Victoriana kind of inspiration. And Yumi Fujiwara, I met her at PMX 2010 when they moved over to Pasadena for the first time. And I thought she was very sweet, and this is her like during the press conference, and my best memory with Yumi Fujiwara, and this is why I have Innocent World in such a high regard, is she actually helped me pick out my first Innocent World outfit. So I have a huge soft spot for Innocent World in terms of Lolita fashion. So when you have the designer helping you pick and choose your outfit, your first outfit, I mean, that is something you cannot take. That's a memory that no one can take away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're having our conversation. So we're just having, so at conventions in general, you're gonna have an archetype that can be best described as Mr. Sweaty Guy. And there's this dude that kind of goes around conventions. I don't know if he's officially press, and apparently I guess he got press at PMX
Yeah, press
that
at a
year.
couple events.
And we nicknamed him Mr. Sweaty Guy because he kind of has like this like, oh my god, blah 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 blah, and I don't know, it just, the vibes of him seem also pretty creepy and kind of stalkery.
Yeah, there's a creepiness factor to that guy.
Mm-hmm. A lot of voice actors don't particularly like Mr. Sweaty Guy, and then our buddy who's also a streamer, his name is Geki. Asian dude. We have a photo of him here. He gets approached by Mr. Sweaty Guy. So look at this photo of Yumi Fujiwara here. She's very demure, very posed, looks very polite.
She's female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the lace, all the ruffles. And then Mr. Sweaty Guy approaches Geki and is like, "Are you Yumi Fujiwara?" And like, I don't think our friend Geki over here has the kind of vibe that speaks of cottagecore classic Lolita.
Also, he's a dude.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Is a photo of him cosplaying as Volkner from Pokemon.
So it's not like he was, wearing a Lolita dress or something, and no, I mean, he wasn't wearing that outfit. I don't know what outfit he had been wearing that year, but he doesn't walk around in Lolita clothing at all. He probably was wearing his Chargers jersey or something.
Oh yeah, it would have been football season too.
Yep.
So that's the Yumi Fujiwara story from
And
us.
how someone could be dumb enough to think just the first Asian person they see is clearly the person who designed this brand.
So this has been a running joke with us for like the past decade or so. Like, are you Yumi Fujiwara? Oh gosh. All right. Now let's talk about Gunpla.
Yeah.
Get into Gunpla, the panel.
Oh, cool. We're promoting my panel now. So yeah, I'm also doing a panel on Sunday. I'll be doing my Get Into Gunpla panel. This is the second time I've ran it. First time I ran it was actually a lot of fun. It was over at Ninja Expo.
Ronin Expo.
Ronin Expo. What are they called now? God, I'm the worst at this. This is a panel for beginners. So unlike some panels where their whole purpose is like, let me tell you the most advanced level stuff, and if you aren't doing this, you're not good enough to make these models. I'm in more of the mindset of like, hey beginners, do you want to have fun building your favorite Stompy Boys from your favorite anime Stompy Boy franchise? Then come to my panel and I'll teach you some basics, some terminology, where to start, and how to actually know whether or not you're paying the right price for your models, which is, I feel, is one of the more important parts of my panel. And last time I did it, it went really well. I even had some questions afterwards about, what do you do if the box is? I'm like, that's a good question. Should see the pile I have under my desk right now of empty boxes. But it's definitely one of those panels I actually have a lot of fun with, and I like to be able to introduce people to this hobby. And as there's a lot of people getting excited over Witch from Mercury, those kits are coming out slowly but surely here in the US. So, if anyone wants to ask me about my thoughts on those kits, I can actually talk about that as well.
All right. Not so much a story, but one of the unique things I really liked about PMX was the promotion of Asian food. From everything savory, because this is the first time you had adobo, PMX 2010, when they had some Filipino food trucks.
The food trucks were good.
Yeah, and this is also the first convention that we attended, again, PMX 2010, that had a variety of food trucks. So I really appreciate, we can also sample, savories, and we can also savor, and also have the sweets here, too. So, they had a Pocky tasting room, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, it had, a variety of different Pocky flavors. I keep forgetting that there's, more Pocky flavors outside of strawberry and chocolate, because Pocky comes out with some really crazy flavors sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had wine Pocky, I had green tea Pocky.
Green tea is pretty good.
I had marble Pocky, which is supposed to be a marble cake. I think that was just the first Pocky I've ever had. And also, not photoed here, but they also had an onigiri room. So I remember the first I remember the year when they had the onigiri room.
I remember that.
That was what I was living off of. I was just living off of rice balls for the whole weekend.
You mean delicious jelly donuts?
Yes, delicious jelly donuts.
I think I'm at fault for introducing my brother to Pocky, because I remember we went to this room and he's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "Oh, they're little." Well, using the term I used back in high school when my Asian friends would bring Pocky in, flavor sticks. And
Make it sound like he's vaping.
I know. They're chocolatey flavor sticks, but then I realized I had other flavors, but I only thought they only had chocolate originally. And so he was trying those out, and he really liked it, and I think I grabbed him a box of whatever for him to keep him occupied. And when he was out at, I don't remember where it was, but one of our local supermarkets or a Target or something, and he saw Pocky there, and he grabbed it and put it in the basket, and parents were like, "What's this?" He's like, "These are really good. They're like chocolate flavor sticks." And there was a time period where Ethan really, really loved Pocky. He probably still does, actually. He just doesn't have it as much anymore. Because I believe I was the one who introduced it to him at one of these cons. At probably one of the PMX Pocky tasting rooms when I was babysitting.
Also, let's talk about 2008. So, 2008 was a very historical year in the United States because that's when Obama was elected.
Yep.
And the whole day one was a complete Obama party because that was the week of the election results. And so everywhere you went, you had like effigies of Obama everywhere. Like, yay, Obama. And then like I think also like about a year later, our buddy Geki also got like a Obama mask and started like running around conventions wearing an Obama mask, and it's it's very interesting to describe because again, this happened in 2008,
Hmm?
and like you don't really see a lot of hype for a lot of election results, especially when it comes to the presidential election. And then he's like, "Yay, Obama! Hope is back!" So someone actually took like the hope poster that was pretty ubiquitous at the time of Obama's election and just added Pocky to it. And then like we also had like parties and like we were just kind of like just celebrating the election of Obama. Like there's me as Ronka over there and just me and my friends at the time just kind of like yay celebration.
Hmm?
Also, another thing I liked about PMX is they got a lot of A-list celebrities from Hollywood as guests of honor. We had Daniel Day Kim from Lost.
Which was awesome.
We also had Dante Bosco. And pictured here is George Takei. This is a press conference we attended. So we attended both his panel and his press conference, and he was just a guest for day one. And day one of PMX Friday, usually not a lot of people head over on Friday. And I was feeling kind of sad because like the room was just kind of like half full. So like, oh man.
Yeah, Friday was the worst day for them to set it up.
Mm-hmm.
If that was Saturday, I think that would have been a full room.
And,
Well, easily would have been a full room.
And he was mainly there to also promote his new musical Allegiance. So you had Lorenzo Theone, also one of the producers of Allegiance, to also just talk about it here at this press conference. So it was really nice to just also just kind of be up and close and personal with George. I know you were there with
Mm-hmm.
the Dante Bosco one-on-one. What was that like?
Dante Bosco 101 was fine. I ended up asking him questions about Fist of the North Star and stuff like that because, yeah, he's in the live action Fist of the North Star. And I was like, well, did you know about the franchise or what have you and got to hear about him? And he's like, yeah, it's one of the reasons I took it. It's like, I know it's different and like, but you know, they only had so many limitations and this and that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not blaming you for it. It's a fine enough cheesy, if you need a cheesy martial arts movie, you know, for like a bad movie night, go for Fist of the North Star. You could do way worse than that. And Dante Bosco's fine. He's playing, I think, the Ray equivalent, but I'm not entirely certain off the top of my head. But he was actually really good in, you know, just trying to have some fun. Even though our lead is pretty rough in that. I don't remember what actor plays him, but he's a little rough. I assume he was a wrestler or something. I actually don't remember. But yeah, everyone was going to ask him about, you know, the same two projects. So I wanted to go something more unique and interesting.
Yeah, PMX has always had like a lot of like decent Hollywood guests, like, and because the convention was so small, like it was very you can get very up and close personal with them. I remember when Walter Jones was a guest, and then I think he started hitting on me because I was cosplaying as Sailor Pluto, because like it was funny the way he was flirting me. He was like, "Girl, you got some nice hair," because like Pluto has like long green hair,
Yeah.
and I'm like. I thought he was gonna say like nice something else, like nice butter or whatever. But I was like,
I think he was
nice.
playing that up. I think that
Yeah.
was the joke.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I can say that Walter Jones was actually like kind of flirting with me, and I take that very. I'm quite flattered by that.
Yeah.
I can't complain, and yeah, it was also when I learned like, oh hey, Walter Jones actually teaches like salsa dancing. That's actually kind of fun.
He's a really nice, funny guy too. If you ever had the chance to see him at a con, he's very amusing.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think.
They got a lot of Power Ranger people actually over the years. Come to think of it, because I remember going to a panel there where they had like the people from the Johnny Young Bosch generation, and I think of some of the Into Turbo and Space people. So it's always cool that they were getting those classic Power Rangers. But before that was like a standard thing. You know, it's like, oh, the Power Ranger. But at the time, it was one of the few cons that could really get those people, and you could hear their stories about like the insanity on set and like, oh, we're gonna film like 3 episodes today, and here's your changes of clothes, and there isn't really like a changing room, so everyone just here. There's kind of this curtain over here, and craziness like that, or which might also be one of the reasons if you go watch the original season or two. You'll see multiple episodes of them wearing the same outfits because they just like, no, don't even change. We'll just shoot it. No one will notice. But it was kind of cool hearing some of their stories and stuff. And I remember, a lot of Power Ranger guests, and of the '90s, the what I would call, I guess, my generation of Power Rangers, classic Zeo. I kind of dropped off at Turbo because the little kid, I'm like, forget it, I'm out. If I could take this seriously, neither will I. And then I had a friend who liked space, and then he got me into Lost Galaxy. So I kind of got a little back into it in like the end of high school. But definitely those 90s people were really great. And I think eventually they got people from some of the later seasons as well. And I don't know, it always stood out to me as like a thing that this con could do, because you go to an anime con, you're not necessarily thinking Power Rangers. And the pop culture cons hadn't really gotten on the fact that there's nostalgia for Power Rangers. And I think PMX was a bit ahead of the game on that one. And yeah, it began with like Walter Jones and Johnny Bosch and stuff like that. And then you'd get a bunch of other people coming in over time. I think Steve Cardenas showed up once. And one of the two... Because they had two different gals to play the Yellow Ranger in the Johnny Bosch, Steve Cardenas generation. And I don't remember which one it was that they brought in off the top of my head. Because one was there for like the first part, and then I think around Zeo they replaced her with someone else, but I don't even know if the character name changed. I think they may have literally had this, they just did a change the actor, no one will notice thing, I think. I'm not so hardcore on like my Power Rangers like lore of the actors, but I think they had two different actresses playing the same character. But either way, I always thought it was really cool that they actually had that and were kind of ahead of the game with it.
All right, so let's see what else we got here. Oh yes, also PMX had a reputation as being nicknamed Filipino Media Expo.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Because there was like a lot of Filipino related programming, and like this is our buddy Ryan here with his Filipino flag because he's cosplaying as his OC of Italia, Philippines, and because of the reputation it had as Filipino Media Expo. The reputation, I think, also stemmed from the fact that you had like a lot of Filipino martial arts demonstrations and tournaments. And I remember the last PMX I attended back in 2015, they had like a Filipino boxing demonstration where you can learn how to do that. And also like a lot of majority staff were Filipino. And also we ran the Wow with WTF, which was a jab at awesomely bad Filipino movies and television. Again, video not working here, but
I created that video.
Yeah, Jared, do tell us about what you did for the teleseries Amaya.
So Amaya is like a pirate adventure show, and we found the Lonely Island song.
Okay, let me just back it up here. So Amaya is actually based on an actual Filipino legend.
Oh.
And because at the time, I didn't know much about Filipino history because not a lot of us, or like Filipino myths and legends. I was just like watching a trailer. My first impression of it was like, oh my gosh, Filipino pirates, they all look like Jack Sparrow.
They really do. It's kind of uncanny. You can tell that there was some influence from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies into the design for that show.
But it's actually about like this indigenous tribe. And just like, and it's just supposed to be like a mythology kind of adventure show. And I'm actually looking back, I'm actually curious to check it out because I actually want to know more about Filipino mythology.
So essentially a female-led like Xena Warrior Princess type thing, but everyone is cosplaying as Jack Sparrow and it takes place in the Philippines. In other words, it's awesome.
So we had to sync up the Lonely Island Jack Sparrow song to it to make it look more epic than it really is.
The theme song's just fine. It's just doing like traditional music, and you're like, oh, okay. I synced it up properly so that it's just, especially when the lead actress lady comes up and they just go, Keira Knightley, and then the lead male shows up and it just goes Jack Sparrow. Like I tried to time it just right to do that because I was an award-winning AMV creator at the time. Still technically am. You can't take my awards away from me. I just don't make AMVs so much anymore. But that was actually a lot of fun to do. And actually, I really missed that panel because that allowed us to talk about like Shake, Rattle, and Roll, about
we need to bring this panel back again
Eddie
now that I
Garcia,
know more about Filipino
Fernando
pop culture.
Jr. And because, we've gotten some really cool Filipino stuff coming out recently, even though technically Lumpia with the Vengeance is Filipino-American.
It's still worth mentioning, in my opinion.
Mentioning. And then, of course, we got the amazing animated series Tresse, and, of course, really good comic as well that's based on.
So and RuPaul's Drag Race Philippines, which I find very amusing.
That is a lot of fun. I mean, if you're into that.
All right. So one of the things I like about PMX is you have a lot of downtime. Like, yeah, there are things going on around about PMX, but this is also a good con to create content. And we decided, so let's just put some context here. So if you are familiar with Sailor Moon, you probably have seen third season of the original 90s third season Sailor Moon S, and you're probably familiar with the villain, Professor Tomo. At the start of every episode, he always does like this whole like maniacal laugh at something.
Usually it's him explaining what his evil plan is. Usually it's connected to something innocuous because it has to for the sake of Monster of the Day. And then he laughs maniacally. Even if it's doing something as simple as he's just making hot cocoa.
So we decided, like, Friday night of PMX, we got some downtime right now. And guess what? Jake cosplays as Professor Tomo. And I cosplay as Mistress 9. I have a camcorder. Let's go. Please describe the video, Jay.
Oh god, it's been forever. So essentially, I would meet someone and then ask them a question about what their character was, and then laugh maniacally at like some minor thing they said.
Basically,
so, like,
you would
there was like a Mario, and he was talking about the mushrooms. I was like, mushrooms!
Or sometimes we would find something innocuous, like in the lobby, or like just around there.
Plant.
And you would
chair.
And you would just point and laugh at it maniacally. Because that was like the kind of environment PMX was.
It was super silly. Like, I think most people in the video did not get the joke, but when you see it all together, it actually was pretty funny. And then it has the best ending stinger as well, where we had a friend of ours dressed as his daughter and says, like, I'm playing video games. And just goes, video games?
And then your brother found this video on YouTube.
So my older brother, who is not into anime or anything like that, he's rather kind of a boring dude, but he does like horror movies and action movies, and we're brothers, so we tolerate each other. He ended up somehow finding the video, and it was like, dude, I saw that video of you laughing at things. That was hilarious. You're like a mad scientist guy, like pointing and laughing, and I'm like, you saw that? My head almost exploded from just like. How? It's not like you would type in Tomo laughs at things. Like he's not typing that in. So he's in some form of search stumbled across the video I was in and watched me laugh at like things. And because a lot of things he would know, because there was like I think Dhalsim was in there and Mario was in there, and obviously like I said, plants, chairs, stupid stuff like that. He got the idea, he got the joke without knowing the character and what I was kind of making fun of. And yeah, that was actually, it was a silly video that I think now at my current age I probably wouldn't do, or if I did something like that I'd do it as a promo for CWF. But it's so weird to me when my older brother stumbled across it and then made a commentary about it.
All right. And also, the last thing I would just wanted to like mention here for PMX, one of my favorite memories is the roast of Richard Epcar. So, Jay, explain what a roast is.
A roast is essentially an event where you celebrate someone by kind of making fun of them. By kind of, and I mean totally making fun of them, although you don't have to necessarily, but the idea of the roast is you're roasting them. You're basically, putting them on blast and making fun of them, but in a loving way. And then usually at the end, it is tradition for the roastee to stand up and then make fun of everyone else at least once. And they're generally a lot of fun. This was the first time I ever saw that for like a voice actor.
And you had other voice actors also joshing on Richard Epcar too.
Including his wife.
And also his son who was in Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. So he got the whole band for Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark to also roast on him too. You're like, F you, Dad. F you too. And he was in his Spider-Man costume too, and I loved it. And of course, like, it was a lot of the jokes got very
Racy.
very lewd,
And blue.
Yeah. And to me, everyone in the audience was just having a great time, and I really hope that PMX, or even any other con in general, brings out a roast of insert veteran voice actor here, because I would love to see these again.
And I'll say this, I saw this at a different con, and I'm not certain what con it was, but I did see a convention that actually had a panel that was the roast of Tony Stark. So they had a Iron Man cosplayer and a bunch of other Marvel cosplayers, like, giving him crap. And I'm like, that was actually a really funny panel, and I'm like, oh, they must have practiced this thing. Like, this is clearly a comedy troupe that decided to come in and do that, but it's a really brilliant thing. And so any comedy troupes out there, if you get to do some decent cosplay, you could totally do a roast of a popular character, and it would probably be a very enjoyable panel. Or just go to CWF, where we kind of do that anyways.
All right, it's like I wanted to end this off with a karaoke clip here, but alas, video playback is not being very kind. But just for context, this is like a whole room singing "I Want It That Way." The whole room was completely lit. And I even have you in the video cosplaying as Artemis sing along to "I Want It That Way."
Oh, I don't even know the lyrics to that.
You just kind of followed along because that's just a karaoke room.
It is. It's just this weird... You will be sucked into it, and there is no escape.
All right, our last sponsor of the evening. Convention Tea is brought to you by Ymax Sweaters. Use Ymac-Dame Asdable to get 40% off your order at ymacsweater.com. I love this website for anything cozy. The weather is getting a lot cooler nowadays, so get some cozy clothes out there. We got some sweaters, we got some cardigans. Also a great place for like holiday gifts, so highly recommend Ymac Sweater. Again, Ymac-Dame Asdable to get 40% off your entire purchase. All right. And you still have a chance to win 2 tickets to PMX. I don't know how many y'all in the chat are up right now, but scan the QR code or check out my Instagram at Dame Scarlet Asdable to find out how you can win 2 tickets to PMX. Your last chance is tomorrow, October 16th. We will be informing winners on Monday, October 17th. So please take advantage of this opportunity to win 2 tickets to PMX. All right. And I think that's it for this evening. This has been Scarlet.
And Jay.
And remember, the con is what you make of it.
So make it a good one.
And we'll see you at the con.